Assalamualaikum. Hi, my name is Tengku Ilina binti Tengku Azahan.
Hi, my name is Nusana binti Alias.
Hi and Assalamualaikum. My name is Nisha Najwa binti Ahmad Johar.
Assalamualaikum, my name is Ruhuda binti Omran.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, my name is Muhammad Fidas Hikmah bin Muhammad.
For the first slide is on the definitions of Ar-Rahnu. According to BNM, Ar-Rahnu is a contract under which a pledger will pledge an asset such as gold object as collateral to the other party. Then the pledge will then assist in repayment of an obligous responsibility to the pledgee, who is the individual to whom the pledge is issued in the event of default. Meanwhile, Ar-Rahnu is being described in Agrobank as an Islamic pawnbroking facility that gives customers quick access to cash by taking their gold items as collateral. They work on the basis of short-term loan by providing cash to the customers with an additional charge in exchange for the safekeeping of the gold. However, both organizations may have different definitions in Ar-Rahnu, but the area that they focus are still the same. Basically, the products offered by the exposure draft BNM and Agrobank can be divided into 4 categories or contract, which are Al-Qadru Hasan, Rahnu, Al-Wadi'ah Damanah, and Al-Ujrah. Another link is that both organizations' contracting parties have a pledger and pledgee. However, Agrobank refers to pledgee as Agrobank while BNM refers to them as bank. As a result, from this analysis, both BNM and Agrobank deals with the same kind of contracting parties, but their words for the pledgee are different.
According to Rahnu Exposure Draft by BNM, Ar-Rahnu has combined several different number of underlying contracts. For example, Ar-Rahnu in Qad, Ar-Rahnu in Murabaha, Tawaruk and Bay al-Innah, Ar-Rahnu in Istisna, Ar-Rahnu in Ijarah, Ar-Rahnu with Kafalah, Ar-Rahnu in Mudarabah, Musyarakah or Wakalah bil al-Istihmar, Ar-Rahnu in Wa'ad, and Ar-Rahnu with Takaful. While, based on selected institution of Ar-Rahnu, which is Agrobank, the underlying contract of Ar-Rahnu were based on Qad, Wadi'ah Damanah, and Tawaruk. Firstly, the underlying contract of Ar-Rahnu based on Qad refer to a contract of lending money from a lender to a borrower, where the borrower is bound to pay the same amount as the amount of borrowing. The underlying contract of Ar-Rahnu based on Wadi'ah Damanah refer to contract for the storage of marhun between the bank and the customer, where the bank stores the marhun for security purpose and charge a storage fee for the marhun at the rate deemed appropriate based on a predetermined formula. Lastly, the underlying contract of Ar-Rahnu based on Tawaruk is where it involves 2 separate sales and purchase contracts. The first contract involves the sale of asset by the seller, which is known as a bank, to the buyer, which is known as a customer, on a deferred basis. Then, the buyer sells the same asset to a third party on a spot payment basis.
Okay, next we move on to the contracting parties based on the exposure drafts proposed by the Bank Negara Malaysia (BNM). The contracting parties involved in the Ar-Rahnu contract must include a pledger and a pledgee at a minimum for the contract to be valid. So, what is pledger and what is pledgee? A pledger is a person who deposits a personal property as a pledge, and a pledgee is a person who lend money and accept a pledge for the loan. So, the contracting party should be either natural persons or legal entities who must be a legal capacity based on the age of Majority Act 1971 and Contract Act 1950, which is the ability of an entity to acquire rights and take responsibilities. Also, the Ar-Rahnu contract can be entered through any party, through agent or known as wakil. Okay, next we move on to the contracting parties based on the Agrobank, which is the contracting parties involved in the Ar-Rahnu contract must include a pledger and a pledgee at a minimum for the contract to be valid. However, the different terms used by the Agrobank is different from the exposure draft proposed by the Bank Negara Malaysia, which is the terms used of the Agrobank for the pledger is customer, and the term used for the pledgee for the Agrobank is the Agrobank. Next, the eligibility of the pledger is in line with the legal capacity in the exposure draft, which is the majority age to apply this Ar-Rahnu contract is 18 years old. Also, the pledgee also can appoint the bank as the agent under concept of wakalah.
Pledge item intended to be a security for the payment of the debt. However, it is not meant for the investment and profitable purpose. The conditions of the pledge item in exposure draft are: the first one is in terms of the wadiah yakdamana, which is known as the saving guarantee protection. Had mentioned that Islamic pawnship must make sure that the pledge item is safely and need to be guaranteed in terms of the safety. Secondly, it must be expressed clearly in the contract so that the customer will be aware before they enter into the pledge agreement. And lastly, according to the Sharia, the pledge item must be valuable and exist during the contract happen, and when it is not existing, then it should be considered as prohibited, which is haram. The condition that required by the Agrobank is the market value will be stated based on the type of the pledge item, which is gold. Secondly, the Agrobank only accepting the three types of gold to be the pledge item, which are the gold jewellery, gold coin, and also the gold wafer. Besides that, the bank will charge the customer with the specific rates based on the specific formula of the pledge item. The bank also will replace any pledge item that considered lost that has been mutually agreed before. Before the pledger or pledgee entering the Ar-Rahnu contract, Agrobank will make sure the sigah and akad, which is the offer and acceptance, is clearly stated to the respected party by including the other document and also the record. As mentioned in the exposure draft, the pledger should provide the evidence of their ownership of the pledge item.
What is the Ar-Rahnu safekeeping? This is the safekeeping service that offered by the banks or non-bank institution for the valuable assets under the Ar-Rahnu schemes. The asset for safekeeping under Sharia. Firstly, the asset must be valuable, which means accepted by everyone and can be exchanged with the other assets or currency. Secondly, the asset can be placed as the collateral. And last but not least, it is must permissible halal, which are free from the elements of riba, maisir, and gara that prohibited by the Sharia. Additional information: in the year of 2014, the bank and non-bank only accept gold as the collateral assets under Ar-Rahnu scheme in Malaysia. This is because the price of gold more constancy and stress-free. Monthly fee under Agrobank safekeeping service. This safekeeping fee service was charged each of 100 ringgit from the marhun value. Firstly, started from the 100 ringgit until 2000 ringgit of the marhun value, the customer will be charged 50 cents per 100 ringgit. Secondly, 60 cents per 100 ringgit will included in the safekeeping monthly fee for the marhum value 2001 ringgit until 5000 ringgit. Finally, marhum value above 5001 ringgit will be charged the safekeeping service 75 cents per 100 ringgit.
Okay, next we move on to the liquidation of pledge item under exposure draft, which is the first one: if the profits from the liquidation of the collateral exceed the obligor's liability or obligation, the excess amount is returned to the asset owner. The second one is if the collateral in the form of the money, the pledgee has the right to directly claim the amount of the obligor's liability or obligation from the collateral. Okay, next we move on to the liquidation of pledge item under Agrobank. If the pledger has some balance on the pledge item, the excess amount will be returned by the pledgee to the asset owner. The return item will be taken place after the safekeeping fee, financing and any other costs that related has been done by the pledgee. So when the customer default, Agrobank disclose in their product disclosure sheets (PDS) that collateral will be liquidated through an auction. As a conclusion, based on the liquidation of the pledge item, if the pledger fails to pay the loan within the specific date that has been stated, the pledgee can sell the pledge items. That's all from us. Thank you.